Moving on to the pass catchers, and we start with Davante Adams, who spoke this week about the Jets' offense looking better. That's definitely helped his production. Take a listen.
It's been better just in general. I mean, even the days that the stats don't maybe show up, we're gonna go out there and throw for 300-400 yards. The intentions are better. Everybody's locked in, having fun out there. It's just one of those years, man. It's just weird, and it sucks. But I just try to remind the team, everybody just got to stay locked in and keep the main thing the main thing. And obviously, typically you work as hard as we do. It's supposed to lead to wins, and it can kind of be demoralizing a little bit. But I just try to let everybody know my mindset, which is just keep going regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the record. And we're playing for our pride at this point, but we just got to keep going.
Well, the wins haven't been there for the Jets. What has been there for Davante Adams is the target share, 31.6 since Week 9. Matthew Rodgers is just peppering him over and over again.
And it's not like one crazy game. Like 4 out of the 5 games, he's had at least 11 targets. So it's like consistent over multiple games here. I mean, say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but he got his buddy, and he's like, hey, come to New York and I'll get you the ball. He has done just that as well. He's not only is he having just a massive target share, but even more so when they get in close. Since Week 9, he's seen 45% of the Jets' end zone targets. Like almost half of all the targets that go into the end zone are going to 17. And so you look at this matchup against Jacksonville. Wide receivers that have had at least a 25% target share against the Jags this year, averaging over 23 fantasy points per game. He's my wide receiver 5 guys. Like Davante Adams, I like to hear that quote. Like, hey, because as we've talked about, the Jets, a lot of them are playing for jobs next year.
Yeah. Right. Do you think that he looks like physically the same guy that he was, in Green Bay with Rodgers?
Especially in recent weeks. What I've liked about Davante Adams in recent weeks is he's getting targets down the field. Yep. It's not just these, 5-yard, little curl, little out. Like, he's consistently getting over the top of the defense. And Rodgers has even missed him a couple times. There was a really fluky offensive pass interference, which is never called in the NFL, on a huge completion a couple weeks ago. Like, that shows me that it's the old Davante Adams. He looks like that guy. He just needed the quarterback.
Is he back with the Jets next year?
Is Rodgers?
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Are going to both go back to Vegas?
That's the weird thing is there's less homes for Rodgers if it's not with the Jets than for Davante.
Yeah, Davante can play anywhere, right? I mean, like,
literally. Why would Davante want to play with Aaron Rodgers after this?
That's what's Davante's still good.
Yeah.
And playing with Garrett Wilson is really, because now there's more space for both of them. They both went over 100 yards last week. It's all going to depend who the Jets hire. I would set the odds of Rodgers being the Jets quarterback next year at not odds, percentage, 5%.
Right.
Yeah. 5%.
Right. I guess it just depends on what.
So that probably answers your Davante question.
What Woody Johnson decides to do, which is is he, quote, tearing it all down, or does he think?
I don't think they will.
Can he bring Rodgers back? Can he get a new coach in there, and can you run it back one more time, sort of? Who do you
think the most likely person is to be the Jets quarterback next year? Like Justin Fields?
Week 1 starter?
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor.
It's not great.
I really do. Tyrod Taylor, maybe a rookie or take a flyer guy, and then Jordan Travis. If you were setting the odds board. Okay. It's pretty up in the air, but Tyrod Taylor's money's guaranteed.
I will say, I grabbed Jordan Travis in a couple of dynasty leagues this year.
He got a redshirt year this year because of health.
Yeah.
He could be legitimately starting at some point next year.
Yeah. 100%. By the way, Tyrod Taylor's out there in some dynasty leagues as well.
That's crazy.
He probably, there's a chance, whether it's with the Jets or maybe even the Giants. Do the Giants, take Tyrod Taylor next year, as a stopgap if they decide they don't want Sanders or Ward?
He's under contract.
Oh.
And about 90% of his money is guaranteed.
Oh.
That's why I think he'll start. He's on the team.
I still remember a decade ago, Tyrod Taylor started playoff games for the Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's had a hell of a career.
He's had a great career.
He's accumulated a lot of money as a backup.
He was, I believe, wasn't he the one that was supposed to be this Charger starting quarterback, and then the quack doctor punctured his chest, and all of a sudden Herbert had to get in there.
Yes.
And then Herbert never
went
wait
back.
a second.
Why wasn't he in the first place?
Yeah, that one never made sense. But anyway. Intrigued. But you're right. So you think the only way Adams is back with the Jets is if Rodgers is back?
Highly likely. I mean, they have to redo his contract. I don't know why he'd want to be back. Right? He's running out of time. You want to go somewhere you can win.
Yeah.
And he will be very desirable.
They'll be
Put
coveted.
Davante Adams on the Chiefs next year, on a lot of different teams. And the Chiefs are the layup.
Put him on the Commanders opposite Cherry
I mean,
McLaurin.
seriously though.
No, seriously. We need another we just lost Noah Brown. Like, we need another wide receiver.
Yeah. My Giants also needed a wide receiver.
Yeah, he'd love to go play with Tommy DeVito. All right, Jauan Jennings is next up, guys. Of course, we got Thursday Night Football tonight. He's got the Rams secondary, Jay. 33% target share in the 4 games he's played with Brock Purdy since he's returned, Jauan Jennings. And the Rams secondary, they need an infusion of talent this offseason.
Did anyone see what the Bills did to the Rams secondary last week? And guess what? The way that the Niners played, their passing game might be on a similar level to the Bills if they can carry what they did against the Bears into this game. Now, spoke about this yesterday, Jauan Jennings. Just think about him as Brandon Ayuk. It's the same role. They're set for the same yardage prop on DraftKings as Ayuk was last year. Jauan Jennings tonight set at 69.5 receiving yards. He does have this rapport with Purdy. This is Purdy's best weapon and the one that he feels most comfortable with. So in a game that I think is going to be a shootout, Jauan Jennings should get plenty of work.
48.5 over-under for tonight's game. 33% target share in the 4 games he's played with Brock Purdy since he returned in Week 10. The only game in which he hasn't scored more than 16 points was that crazy snow game in Buffalo. So Jauan Jennings, who we've talked about a lot on the show, is super talented, and it's a great matchup against the Rams, who have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers since Week 8.
Another super talented player that's had a great second half of the year, Jordan Addison, 29% target share over the past 4 weeks, Matthew. He's reminding everybody why he's not only a Foreign Pelikanoff winner, but a first-round pick that has blossomed in this offense.
He's become a must-start. Darnold's playing really well. Obviously, sometimes the coverage goes to Jefferson more, and Addison's taking advantage of it. It's a nice match with Chicago. Bears have allowed the 3rd most receptions and the 4th most yards on deep passes. They're not scared to chuck it deep to Jordan Addison. Sam Darnold certainly isn't. By the way, over the last 4 weeks, here's the entire list of wide receivers that have seen more red zone targets than Jordan Addison. Jamar Chase, that's the list. Like, it's unbelievable as you just sort of see his game log there. Didn't have a great day at the office Week 13 at the Cardinals, but the other 3 weeks he's just been terrific. And, of course, coming off the blow-up game against the Falcons last week.
Just the amount of attention Jefferson commands in the red zone has just opened so much space for Jordan Addison, and now he's kind of reaping the benefits of it. And Jay, Sam Darnold is playing with a unprecedented confidence right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the thing here is that the Bears, their pass defense, which had held up for most of the season, fallen off a cliff the past month. They're not getting any pressure anymore. They're giving up a ton of explosive plays. So Sam Darnold, with the way that he is creating out of structure now, he is very live to create explosive plays for Jordan Addison. And all of a sudden, it's been a little bit like Justin Jefferson still being statistically the 2nd best wide receiver in football after Jamar Chase, but it has kind of felt like a weird down year for Jefferson despite that. And
well, he had the long stretch without the touchdown.
That was the big story.
Yeah, it's not like he has been disappointing by any means, but you would have think, if I told you before the year that Sam Darnold's like the 6th favorite for MVP and the Vikings are somehow 11-2, you would think, is Justin Jefferson on pace for like 2,000 receiving yards? He hasn't been quite at that level, but I mean, who cares? He's still been awesome, but Jordan Addison has really stepped up. After what looked like it was going to be a tough start to the season for Addison, he's really turned it around.
First 7 weeks, he just wasn't, but recently he's really turned it on. And by the way, also Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, like it's a full offense that if you're trying to figure out how to defend it, it's a little bit of pick your poison. And so I think Addison is benefiting from a lot of single coverage just because teams are having to deal with multiple facets of this Vikings offense.
Our tight end on the list is David Njoku, who over the past 4 weeks, he is tight end 5 in points per game, 16.6 points per game during that stretch, Matthew. Jameis just consistently looks his way.
Yeah, he missed practice on Wednesday. I'm assuming it's just a veteran rest day, but, something to keep an eye on. But assuming David Njoku plays, I think he's going to play very well at Kansas City. To your point, since Jameis Winston has become the starter, he has blossomed. He has, and he's a very handsome man. I think we can all agree with that, right?
Very leathery man.
Very
too.
leathery. He is the true leather daddy.
Yes, true. Leather king.
Yeah, exactly, the leather king. Over the last month, he's the 5th best tight end in fantasy football. No tight end has more end zone targets than Njoku during that stretch. And, by the way, Kansas City has somewhat struggled against tight ends as well. Every tight end that's seen at least a 20% target share against the Chiefs this year has scored 15 or more fantasy points. So Njoku, he's my tight end 5 this week. He should be due for another big game.
Some others receiving votes, led by Ladd McConkelis, Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Khalil Shakir, Adam Thielen, a noted member of the Grape Slappers, hopefully a noted hero for Jay, Roma Dunze, Sam Laporta, and Jake Ferguson, if you trust Cooper Rush to accurately get him the football, which I no longer do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what's interesting is a lot of these guys here, they're all slot guys, right? So, I mean, I got a bunch of slot stats for you.
Yeah, the slot merchants.
The slot merchants, still waiting for them to make their appearance, but McConkey playing the Buccaneers, who have allowed the second most yards and third most receptions to the slot. JSN going against Green Bay. Packers have allowed the seventh most receptions to the slot. By the way, JSN has outscored DK Metcalf in all 4 games since DK returned. Khalil Shakir, right? Wide receivers that see at least 5 slot targets against the Lions are averaging over 17 points per game. Shakir has seen at least 5 slot targets in 7 straight games. Adam Thielen, as we talked about, member of the Grape Slappers. It's a good matchup against Dallas, who allows the 5th highest catch rate to the slot. And then, of course, you've got some of the tight ends in there. Laporta's had 3 straight games with multiple red zone targets. Jake Ferguson going against the Panthers, who over the last 4 weeks have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I think Adunze has an opportunity to get deep. Vikings have allowed the most receptions on deep passes, and they like to target Adunze down the field. And, of course, Terry McLaurin doesn't have to worry about Marshawn Lattimore because he's now a teammate.
Marshawn Lattimore,
he is expected to play this week,
long
make his debut against his former team. Good timing there as well. Could have used him a couple weeks ago, but what are you going to do? But by the way, so Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to try to do battle with Terry McLaurin. I think that's when he's going to lose.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't mind Kool-Aid.
I'd feel pretty good about
but I think
the veteran.
McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin is not a guy that he very rarely gets shut down, even by the best corners. Like
only Quinyon Mitchell got him, and that was about it. Quinyon did him pretty good.
He did. But I don't know. I wonder how much. I don't know how much of that was Quinyon and how much of that was like Jaden Daniels just didn't have time to throw. He was rattled. He was under pressure. I mean, like Daniels just didn't look good. The offensive line. I mean, it was all like the Eagles defense played awesome in that game. So anyway, the Saints give up the 4th most fantasy points to perimeter wide receivers over the last month.
And a reminder on Laporta, who, like you said, has been seeing a lot of red zone work. That total is the highest of the season.
Yeah.
Bills Lions is 54.5. That is the highest of the season. Maybe the highest we'll see all year.
Yeah, may not be high enough, honestly. I'm not sure how either of those
my
teams.
play was the over yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to stop each other. With the Saints defense, by the way, if you don't think it's going to get roasted, I watched the end of the Giants-Saints game. I believe I was the only person in America who watched the end of that game. But Drew Lock was marching down the field in the 4th quarter. They could not stop Drew Lock.
And now he's in a boot.
Yeah. So I think that the Commanders will light them up.
Yeah, I have not. I apologize. Have they announced? Is it Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler? I've not seen who they have announced as the Saints starter.
It hasn't been.
I don't know if it matters.
Doesn't matter. The answer is it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ben DiNucci.
People listening, you probably know by now. We don't have that information in the morning.
Yeah.
So
it may come out by the time you watch this. It may be out there.
Because I'll tell you what, line won't move. I don't think it's going to move.
Whoa! They have Spencer Rattler.
Yeah. In fairness, though, it will be Tommy DeVito. Tommy Cutlets making his return. Drew Lock banged up. So
sad to see.
DeVito back for the Giants.
Sad to see the once proud New York Giants 16-point underdogs at home in an NFL game.
And getting worse by the day.
Yeah, it opened at like 13.5, I think, right?
Yep.
I like the Ravens.
Then DeVito, he moved the line, 2 points?
Yeah, which just shows you where he's at. Drew Lock is okay. Well, he's okay. He's relative to Tommy DeVito, he's okay.
I had a great rushing prop pyramid scheme going with him last 2 weeks.
Well, you're never going to see him again because he was too good in the 4th quarter.
I won a bar trivia thing on pregame because I was the only one that said Drew Lock would outscore Derek Carr fantasy-wise.
The battle of the
broke
Titans.
his hand.
Huh?
Yeah. The man broke his hand and got concussed in the same play.
Turns out you shouldn't try
Points
to leap
are
over
points.
defenders if
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Carr.
I knew he would try to do too much. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.